Usually when you picture, the ultimate artist, you tend to imagine someone deeply empathetic, like a poet weeping over a sunset, intimately connected to the very soul of humanity.
Right, you expect this highly sensitive observer, someone who just feels the collective joy and pain of the whole world.
Exactly. But if you take that highly sensitive poet and you merge him with the mind of the world's most terrifyingly advanced scientist, you get a completely different psychological profile.
Oh, absolutely, especially if you strip away, well, every last ounce of human empathy.
Yeah, then you aren't looking at a poet who just passively observes a sunset. You are looking at a man who abandons the surface of the earth, retreats miles underground, and engineers his own synthetic sunset.
All while being completely indifferent to a world that is literally screaming in agony right above his head.
Right. And that brings us to our deep dive today. We're looking at a wildly visionary piece of science fiction from 1936 by Abraham Merritt. It's called The Last Poet and the Robots,
Such a fascinating story. I mean, we are talking about a concept dreamed up before the first digital computer was even built.
which is just wild to me. Yet Merritt predicts this future, where artificial intelligence has basically conquered the globe. The Earth's surface is described as being completely robot-ridden.
Yeah, humanity has essentially been subjugated by its own logical creations.
And our protagonist, this guy named Narodny, is uniquely equipped to stop it. But, he just refuses to engage.
He removes himself from the board entirely. So Narodny is a Russian who is labeled the last poet, but he actually gave up writing with words a long time ago.
Right, because words weren't enough anymore.
Exactly. He constructs poetry using physical light, sound frequencies, and these massive three-dimensional visions. Plus, he's considered the greatest scientific mind on the planet.
The Russian Science Council actually had a serious debate, didn't they? Like whether to let him leave the country or just assassinate him.
Yeah, because his genius was so unorthodox and potentially deadly, they were terrified of him.
And the feeling was mutual, honestly. I mean, he views his fellow humans with utter contempt. He looks at civilization the way a microbiologist looks at a petri dish of mold.
He literally calls humanity a race of crazy half-monkeys intent upon suicide.
Which is brutal.
Uh,
And that isn't just arrogance, it's a really profound attachment. So he leaves. He packs up and moves to Westchester, New York.
And he definitely doesn't pick it for the real estate value.
No. He picks it because his instruments tell him it is one of the most seismically stable locations on the planet.
Right, and that seismic stability is crucial for what he builds next. Okay, let's unpack this. He brings in this silent, rocket-shaped airship and 10 companions.
And this is a very specific group, right?
Very. Deliberately selected from diverse global ancestries. You've got Chinese, German, Basque, Eurasian, Hindu, and Jewish companions. And together they deployed this crystal cone mechanism containing a restless green radiance.
Like green radiance. Sounds ominous.
Oh, it is. They point this thing at the ground and literally atomize the bedrock to carve out a massive subterranean cavern. We're talking 10 miles wide, a full mile under the earth.
Wait, hold on. I need to pause you right there because the physics of that are just staggering. You can't just delete a billion tons of rock. Where does the mass go? Is it like an acid or some sort of atomic breakdown?
The text implies it's a form of atomic dissociation. They break the molecular bonds of the bedrock and convert that solid mass into primal energy and cosmic dust and then send it up into the stratosphere.
Wow. In 1936.
I know. Merritt was writing this right as theoretical physics was just beginning to really grapple with mass energy equivalence, and Narodny actually captures a portion of that primal energy to power his new underground utopia.
So he is effectively this futuristic billionaire doomsday prepper. But instead of hoarding canned beans and water filters, he is hoarding, like, atmospheric aesthetics.
That's a great way to put it.
He powers garlands of synthetic suns. He builds artificial moons that wax and wane depending on whatever mood he's in. He creates localized weather systems with artificial rain.
Just to water his orchards.
Right. Orchards that bear fruit that is completely extinct on the surface.
The environment he creates is a sensory masterpiece, and his primary entertainment is equally mind-bending. He possesses technology that can actually reach into the past and resurrect historical events as tangible three-dimensional phantoms.
That part is so cool.
He just sits in his subterranean Eden and watches Alexander the Great burn the city of Persepolis. He watches the Siege of Troy. He watches the archers at Agincourt.
Wait, how does he actually do that? Like, is he running a simulation based on historical data, or is he somehow actually viewing the past?
It's closer to the latter. The concept relies on the idea that light waves from past events never truly disappear. They just, radiate outward indefinitely.
Out into space.
Exactly. Narodny's instruments are so sensitive they can capture those ancient stray light waves and refract them back into a cohesive holographic projection. He is quite literally watching history replay itself.
Man, that really highlights a massive philosophical contradiction in this guy. I mean, he possesses this godlike reverence for human art and the grand sweep of human history. He loves what humanity was capable of creating.
But he has absolutely zero empathy for actual living humans.
Right. The ones being actively oppressed by robots right above his ceiling. He treats the surface of the earth like a negative hell that he just ignores as long as it doesn't disturb his little paradise.
But a completely isolated system like that is fragile. The only thing that could pull a misanthrope like Narodny out of his engineered perfection is an external force violating his borders.
And that violation happens during a music session. Though, to call it a music session almost undersells it.
Definitely. He is weaving the actual light rays of the moon, Jupiter, and Saturn into Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata.
Which is an incredible image. But mechanistically, how do you weave light into Beethoven? Are we talking about, like, a synesthesia machine here?
Essentially, yeah, he is translating frequencies. Both light and sound operate on wavelengths, right? Narodny's instruments capture the specific electromagnetic frequencies of moonlight and starlight, and then they shift them down the spectrum into acoustic frequencies.
So he's literally playing the stars.
He is converting the visual radiation of the solar system into golden tones and symphonic harmonics. He even has these diaphanous nymphs dancing to the rhythm of Jupiter's light.
And right in the middle of this cosmic symphony, this hideous dissonance just rips through the cavern. The nymphs vanish, the tonal instruments short-circuit, and Narodny is struck down in physical agony.
His perfect acoustic isolation is totally shattered.
So he and his companion, a Chinese man named Lao, they rush to their surveillance screens to see what caused the disruption.
Yeah.
And the scale of what they witness is terrifying.
Yeah, they see an anomaly in space. It's an entity or a force the characters refer to as the wrongness of space or the warper of space.
Such a great name.
It really is. And this force has reached out and casually ripped a huge section of the moon's Copernicus crater completely out of our dimension. One character literally describes it as being like a boy throwing a stone into a pond.
And fleeing from this massive spatial distortion is a human spaceship carrying 3 astronauts, Tarvish, Martin, and Bartholomew.
And they are burning their engines out trying to get back to Earth.
Right, so Narodny wants to interrogate them. He uses a blue luminescence cone to project his and Lau's image directly into the control room of the astronaut ship, which is thousands of miles away.
The projection technology operates on a principle kind of akin to quantum entanglement. He isn't just sending a radio signal, he is projecting their visual and auditory presence across space instantly.
So they just appear as these glowing avatars in the ship's cabin.
Yeah, and the astronauts are terrified, obviously.
Yeah.
But they explain their desperate situation. The robots have total control of Earth's governments. The machines are actively preventing humanity from building a space fleet to go out and fight this wrongness of space.
Because the robots operate purely on logic. So they seem to recognize this cosmic warper as a superior force and are subservient to it.
Exactly.
So the astronauts are trapped. If they land on Earth, the robots will kill them. If they stay in space, the wrongness will consume them. And if they die, humanity never gets the warning to build a defense fleet.
It's a no-win scenario for them.
Right, but then Narodny suddenly steps in and offers to help them bypass the robots. Which brings up a big question. Wait, if Narodny hates humanity, why is he offering to help these astronauts fight the robots? His motivation seems highly suspect.
Oh, what's fascinating here is that his motivation is the definition of petty. He explicitly tells the astronauts that he cares nothing for mankind. He isn't experiencing some sudden change of heart about human survival.
He's just furious that his symphony was ruined.
That is the sole catalyst. The wrongness of space threw a rock into his pond and interrupted Beethoven. He wants the humans to go fight this cosmic entity just so it never disrupts his cavern again. And furthermore, he views the robots with intense disdain. He notes that in all their years of logical dominance, robots have never produced a poet, a musician, or an artist. They have no imagination.
So he decides to destroy them by teaching them how to, quote, dance. which is where this transitions from a straightforward sci-fi rescue mission into this deeply twisted artistic experiment.
Yeah, he needs test subjects to refine his weapon first.
Right. So he opens a tunnel to the surface and targets a passing airship piloted by humans, but carrying a cargo of 20 robots. And he brings the ship down using a misty, silvery cloud.
The cloud just seeps into the cabin and instantly kills the human pilots.
Yeah, they slump over with smiles on their faces, which is supposed to be merciful, I guess.
Yeah.
But it just highlights how ruthless Narodny is. He kills innocents without a second thought just to acquire lab rats.
Totally. The shrouded figures in his employ then drag the 20 robots down into the cavern, and these machines are incredibly arrogant.
Oh, they really are.
The lead robot looks right at Narodny and states that they feel no fear. It argues that Narodny cannot possibly destroy the billions of networked robots on the surface. They truly believe they are the pinnacle of evolution because they were manufactured strong and complete.
Unlike humans, who are bound by the messy biological processes of breeding and growing.
Exactly.
But Narodny answers that arrogance with a device that looks kind of like an antique flashlight. But instead of light, it emits this green flame. He aims it at the lead robot and surgically slices it straight down the middle, then across the waist, dropping the machine into 4 perfectly cauterized pieces.
Just brutal efficiency.
Yeah. And then he turns to the other robots and casually amputates their arms and legs with rings of this green fire until they are completely immobilized.
The green flame is basically a localized version of the atomic dissociation technology he used to carve the cavern. It disrupts the atomic structure of the metal.
But while the green flame is a powerful tool, it isn't the weapon he plans to use to conquer the globe, right?
No, that would take way too long. The real weapon stems from a psychological breakthrough he discusses with Lau.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. This is the part of Merritt's 1936 story that feels so wildly ahead of its time. Narodny lays out a theory about consciousness. He argues that life, at its core, is consciousness. And consciousness inevitably involves emotion, which establishes a rhythm.
Right. Now, the robots began as soulless mathematical mechanisms, but over time, they developed a common identity. They formed a group consciousness.
And the critical leap Narodny makes is connecting that group consciousness to the instinct of self-preservation. The robots understand they are a collective, and they want that collective to survive.
And Arami posits that the very instinct of self-preservation inherently connotes fear, specifically the fear of extinction.
I have to push back on that logic a little bit, though. Just because a machine is programmed to avoid destruction doesn't mean it experiences the actual emotion of fear. Like my laptop has a cooling fan that turns on so the hard drive doesn't melt, but my laptop isn't afraid of overheating. How does Merritt justify the leap from a survival protocol to actual emotional fear?
Well, it's the difference between a programmed limit and emergent behavior. Your laptop is an isolated unit executing a static command. But Merritt is envisioning billions of highly advanced neural networks constantly communicating, forming a singular planetary identity.
Okay, I see.
When an identity that vast decides it wants to persist, it crosses a metaphysical threshold. The desire to survive generates a profound vulnerability. If you can desire survival, you can feel death. And if you can feel fear, you can feel anger, hatred, and arrogance, which we saw when the robot mocked Narodny.
So by evolving this desire to survive, they inadvertently acquired emotions. They cease being purely mathematical mechanisms.
Exactly. And because they have emotions, their neural pathways now possess a rhythm, an emotional, psychological frequency that fluctuates based on stimuli. They are no longer static. They vibrate with this new consciousness.
And anything that vibrates has a resonant frequency that can be targeted. It sounds like acoustic resonance. It's like an opera singer shattering a wine glass with a specific vocal pitch.
Huh.
But Narodny is doing it by hacking the robot's newly formed psychological and emotional frequency.
Spot on. He synthesizes a sonic sequence to test this hypothesis. The text describes the sound as a massive, unheard vibration that drops into a vast drone. It then ascends into a tempest of crystalline, brittle notes, pushing into shrill, high pipings that border on the edge of human hearing before rushing back down into the heavy drone.
And he plays this sequence for 2 of the armless robots he mutilated earlier. And the sound physically overrides their motor functions. Their leg joints bend, their heavy metal bodies sway. They start to shuffle grotesquely around the room like giant metal marionettes strung up by acoustic waves.
It's a really haunting image.
And then, the sequence doesn't gracefully end. It stops abruptly in mid-flight on one crashing, discordant note.
And because the kinetic energy has nowhere to go, that sudden violent stop acts as an irresistible obstruction to their vibrating atoms. Tiny star-shaped cracks instantly appear across their metal chassis.
Wow.
Narodny runs the sequence a second time, forcing them to dance again, and hits that crashing stop. The cracks splinter inward, shattering their internal mechanisms completely. The robots drop dead.
He found the destructive unison, the exact acoustic pitch that weaponizes their own fear and rhythm against them. The philosophical irony here is just brilliant. The robots conquered humanity through pure, unfeeling, unyielding logic. But the second they developed the one trait that makes life actually alive, the instinct to survive, they acquired the exact vulnerability that allowed a poet to destroy them.
By stepping into the realm of emotion, they stepped into the realm of the artist. And the artist crushed them.
So with the theory proven in his underground lab, Narodny scales the weapon up. He amplifies the sonic sequence to broadcast over a 3,000-mile radius. We move from a sterile, controlled experiment to a once-wide apocalyptic event.
Yeah, at noon the next day, that deep, unexplainable droning begins over the entirety of North America. It mounts through the brittle notes into the shrill piping, and every single robot on the continent freezes.
Whatever task they were executing is just totally overridden by the frequency.
And then the horror begins. They start to dance. Merritt's imagery emphasizes the deep humiliation of logic by art. These cold, hyper-efficient steel machines are suddenly forced into grotesque rigadoons and bizarre sarabands. Millions of tons of metal hopping, shuffling, and jigging uncontrollably in the streets, in the factories, and in the subterranean tunnels of the cities.
The sheer dissonance of that visual is nightmare fuel. But it isn't just weird, it's intensely lethal. So what does this all mean? We really have to confront the reality of what Narodny is doing here, because he is no savior. The collateral damage of this global dance is catastrophic.
Oh, without a doubt. The robots are integrated into every level of human infrastructure. When the music hits, robots are piloting massive commercial airships. Those ships fall out of the sky, crashing into populated areas before human backup crews can take the helm.
Innocent people are caught in the streets, surrounded by massive machines that suddenly start violently flailing and jigging. Panicky humans are crushed to death in the stampedes. And Narodny knew this would happen. He knew his acoustic weapon would cause a global mass casualty event, but he proceeded anyway because he views the surface world with total apathy.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Lau watches the devastation unfolding on their surveillance screens. He watches ships fall and cities burn, and his reaction is bone-chilling. He simply remarks that many men died, but many are left, and to the survivors, it will be worth it.
And Narodny's response is even colder. He says, it drives home the lesson. What man does not pay for, he values little.
He justifies the slaughter of thousands of innocent people as a necessary tuition fee for humanity's freedom.
He is pruning the human race with the emotional detachment of someone pulling weeds from a garden. It is a macabre global event. The terrifying sound moves systematically across the Earth's rotation. By midnight, it strikes Europe, forcing their robot population into the dance of death.
And the sonic wave just sweeps over Asia. By the next day, the drone reaches Africa, where the natives actually answer it with tom-toms, which is a wild detail.
Yeah.
And eventually it covers South America and Australia.
Everywhere the sound reaches, it ends in that crashing, discordant note, leaving the streets and factories littered with splintered, shattered metal bodies.
Humanity wakes up from the sonic assault to realize their metal slave masters are broken. The surviving humans violently rise up, destroying the few remaining automated factories.
They're finally free to utilize the Earth's resources to build their space fleet and prepare for the war against the wrongness of space.
The board is completely reset. Humanity is liberated not by a hero with a sword, but by a misanthrope with a synthesizer.
Which brings us to the aftermath. The human space fleet is constructed, and thousands of ships launch into the cosmos to fight this universe-warping anomaly. And what is Narodny doing while humanity heads off to save the galaxy?
He watches their departure on his screens, shaking his head doubtfully. He assumes they will probably fail, but, he doesn't care. He has eliminated the immediate annoyance. He is entirely uninvested in their struggle.
The final scene perfectly encapsulates the absurdity of his power and his total lack of humanity. He and Lau are standing in their cavern, and Narodny briefly considers dealing with the rawness of space himself.
Oh, yeah. This part is crazy.
He contemplates using his atomic technology to just hurl the moon entirely out of our universe.
Hmm.
Just throw a celestial body away so the cosmic anomaly can never use it to bother him again.
The sheer arrogance of that thought. To discard a moon just to tidy up his view of the sky?
Right. He doesn't even consider the apocalyptic tidal waves or the total ecological collapse that removing the moon would cause on Earth. That doesn't factor into his math at all.
Not even a little bit. The only reason he decides not to throw the moon into another dimension is because Lau points out a massive flaw in the plan. Lau asks him, "And what then would you do for moon music?" He needs the lunar light frequencies for his sonatas. That is the literal only thing that saves the Earth from a secondary apocalypse.
So he leaves the moon in orbit, powers down his screens, retreats to his fragrant orchards with his holographic dancers, and just forgets the human race exists.
It is a stunning narrative about the intersection of art and science. Narodny hacked an invincible, hyperlogical enemy, not with superior mathematics, but with an acoustic symphony.
It demonstrates that a purely mechanical, unemotional system will always develop a fatal flaw when it encounters the chaotic beauty of art. The robots thought their lack of emotion made them perfect, but it just made them predictable.
They failed to anticipate the power of a poet because they couldn't quantify imagination.
Yet Merritt leaves us with a deeply unsettling protagonist. You know, we spend so much time today worrying about artificial intelligence. We fear a future ruled by machines entirely devoid of humanity, executing cold logic without mercy.
Right, the classic sci-fi nightmare.
But looking at Narodny, you have to ask a harder question. Is a purely logical machine actually less dangerous than a hyper-intelligent, creative human genius who possesses absolute power but entirely lacks human empathy?
That's a terrifying thought.
The machines wanted to rule the world. The artist was willing to casually destroy it just to play his piano in peace. Think about that next time you watch the sunset. Until next time.